officiating problems, a 12-team college football playoff, and MVP conversations. 3 of the most heated debates you could have with your friends when talking about football this season. Well, fortunately for you, we'll be talking about all 3 of those today on The Extra Point, and it starts right now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Extra Point, brought to you by Tigervision. I'm your host, Griffin Barfield. Once again, we have a full panel with us today. 5 panelists ready to talk about their views of not only the college football season, but the NFL season, which is coming to a close 2 weeks from now. Going over to the panelist desk from the left to the right, Jordan York, Toby Corriston, Brian Warner, Drew Landon, and Caden Hughes. Guys, as always, welcome back to the show. We got a big one this week, obviously, with all of the, especially with the fall sports coming to a close. College football is now over. We crowned a champion, Ohio State. The NFL, we have our 2 teams going to the Super Bowl. The NFL honors are going to be coming up soon, so we'll get awards with that as well. So let's just break it all down. We'll go over to college football first. That season is now over. Obviously, a new 12-team playoff, and it ended just how if the 14-team playoff happened, with Ohio State coming out on top, beating Notre Dame. And Let's have a little fun with this. So if you had to give the season a grade, a lot of new things going on in this whole season with conference realignment, a 12-team playoff, NIL becoming more and more of a factor. Give the season a grade out of whatever grading scale you believe. What do you believe that this season should be?
I'll go ahead and lead this one off. I'm going to go with a 9.9 out of 10. I feel like the season was practically perfect. I feel like it was unpredictable to a level that we haven't really seen before. When we talk about having a week where 6 of the top 10 teams lost, when you talk about the first ever 12-team playoff, when you talk about the Cinderellas we had in Arizona State and Boise State getting a shot on the big stage and putting up a really good fight against the powerhouses that ended up going pretty far in the college football playoff. And I think the only reason it loses a 1/10 of a point is because the playoff isn't perfect. I feel like the top 4 teams, based off seeding, should get a bye, not based off conferences, and Clemson didn't win the Natty. So 9.9.
I'm going to disagree a little bit. I have a B+. You definitely can't see it because my marker is over here. I'm going to disagree with Mary Poppins over here, practically perfect. That it was not practically perfect. I like the 12-team playoff. It's a great format. Obviously, it's going to need some tweaking here and there. But I just think the talent level of college football this year was not at the standard that we've seen it before. We've seen some great teams come out, and obviously with the transfer portal now, you're going to have a lot more parity in college football. But I don't feel like we saw a lot of stars this year, and stars are what draw people to college football. We had Will Howard be our national championship winning quarterback. Like, not a lot of stars out there. Yeah. Some great wide receivers. Abdul Carter, Penn State, probably the best defender of the year. But
any great two-way players that are elite?
Yeah, Travis Hunter, he went to Colorado. Yeah.
It is kind of crazy.
But, if you look at the Heisman ceremony, I mean, gosh, Dylan Gabriel made it to the Heisman ceremony. Like 15-0 Oregon. I just think there could be some more star power. I think we're going to see some stars emerge as time goes on. A lot of great young wide receivers. But I don't feel like it was just the best college football season as a whole as what we've seen in the past.
And it does kind of make it a crazy season when you say the best wide receiver was arguably either in division, or at least the lower tier division one, it was San Diego State, or you say it was a freshman out of Ohio State on the national championship winning team.
Yeah.
Like, you had 3 great freshmen, and can you name any other seniors that really popped off this year? You really can't outside of Steve Nash, who won the Triple Crown. But I wanted to go, I was pretty much on the same page as you. B+. If people don't like letters, I gave you the number 88. If you don't like letters or numbers, I gave you the stars. I tried my best at like the most stars. I want to be inclusive to everyone so they can see this. But either way, I do say a B+. I think it was a good season. We had highlights. We had Boise State, Arizona State. They made the college playoffs. But to end the year with Ohio State making it, it's like I would have loved to see an upset. You know, a team that wasn't expected, whether it's SMU, whether it's Indiana. Even Notre Dame, I would count semi as an upset because you haven't seen them win a playoff game recently. I mean, they've made it, but they haven't won it. But I don't think there's anything really shocking. And like to Toby's point, if you're saying that the best player arguably in the entire season, at least at the wide receiver position, was a freshman, it's great for the future, but I wouldn't say it's great right now. So I think their future is like a 90, 95, but as of college football right now, I would say an 88.
I absolutely agree with these two on my right. Toby kind of took my line. I really am not a big fan of the quarterback class going into this. The fact that Shadur is a top 5 quarterback kind of is a little iffy for me, especially from his latter end of the season. But on my board, I have 110% because we are Tigervision after all. I love to talk about Clemson. I am very excited for the Clemson season, though. We have a lot of freshmen, such as TJ Moore and Sammy Brown, moving up, getting more experience. I'm really excited to see what the Clemson team can offer us next season. I think we can make a deeper run than we did this year.
I gave them first, which, as we all know, is the best you could possibly be. It was an amazing season, and I'm actually really excited to talk about this. This is something I've been wanting to talk about for a while, because Griffin said earlier, like, one of the most heated debates you can have with your friends is on the 12-team playoff. And I kind of want to complain to college football fans a little bit here and stuff, because I'm a little fed up with the snootiness, or just the like, y'all better get this perfect energy and stuff. And this isn't exactly the question, but this is the closest I'll have as a platform to express this, So I want to go ahead and do this. Like, I feel like college football fans watch with like sorry, let me back up a little bit. So for my entire life, and also way before my life, the BCS championship and stuff too, people complained about college football not having a playoff and stuff. And it was just you had to be so perfect and had to go exactly right, and you make one mistake, lose one game, and you're just completely out of contention. It wasn't fun. We finally got that, and I feel like people immediately went to like, I swear to God, if they mess this up, they better get this exactly perfect. And it's just like the Vikings went 14-3 this year, had a road game their first game, and then they lost and were eliminated. That's kind of stupid. In baseball, you could be this, it used to be for so long, you could be the second best team in baseball, and then you have one wild card game, you have one bad day, your season's over, and that's it. There's playoff systems that are flawed and ridiculous. The wild card used to be one game.
Yeah, but it wasn't the second best team in
But if you were the second best team in baseball, you're second in your division. Sorry, I should have said that. Yeah, if the best team was in your division, then you could have one game and your season's over. So I think that just like the playoff format is always going to be weird and stuff, because when you invite more teams, it's going to create more chaos and stuff. And then the last thing I want to say on it is just like the culture and energy towards underdogs and towards lower level teams drives me crazy. I said this on the show a while ago. If Loyola Chicago happened in college football, people would get so mad. Like, teams that have really good records in bad conferences and pull off upsets, that's a fun part of sports and stuff. And if you're going to have an extended 12-team playoff, you're going to have maybe not so good teams upset great teams. You're going to have teams make it a little too far. You're going to have teams that get eliminated a little too soon. It's part of the fun. It's part of the chaos. And I wish you would stop watching like so angrily, like we better get the 4 best teams in or else this is a disastrous playoff. That's all I want to say about that.
Well, then let's go to the 12-team playoff. Obviously, I got you guys' grades about that. But all 5 of you kind of narrowed in the argument in terms of what the 12-team playoff was like. I know Jordan said that it should be the best 4 teams outright. Caden said that there could be a little bit more of adjustment to do. Obviously, it was the first season of the 12-team playoff. There's obviously going to be kinks in the armor. I'm sure that will be figured out. Do you agree that it should be 12 teams, or should it go up to 14, 16, or do you believe that it could even go down to, I don't think any of you are going to say to go back to 4 teams, but even something like an 8-team playoff or a 10-team playoff. Is 12 the perfect number?
So I think 12 is the perfect number. I think 16, it's just too many. It's too many games. And there's a couple flaws with what happened this year. There were some blowouts. That's unfortunate for the first time, but I think we're going to get closer games. We saw Arizona State make a run. I think 12 teams is good. The playoff needs to happen faster. It took over a month to get to the national championship game, or from, not over a month, but it was nearly a month from the first playoff game to the national championship. It needs to be quicker. You need to get through these weeks. It should be 1 week each game. It should be like the NFL, Saturday, 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 Saturday. We're used to college football being on a Saturday. It should stay that way, and it shouldn't drag on as long, because it kind of gets tiring building up the hype. There's only so much you can talk about. So I think that's the first thing they need to change. Secondly, we saw all of the teams with a bye get knocked out. Now, part of that is because Boise State and Arizona State had a bye, and you can rework how the byes work. But the other part is that we've seen it in sports time and time again, that you get rusty, you can't come out slow when you're coming off a bye. Those need to be home games for the teams. You should be rewarded for getting a bye by being able to play at your home stadium. And then it should be the semifinals in the college football playoff, or the college football national championship. they're at bowl sites. The Rose Bowl should be the national championship game every year. I think you just need to reward teams more, and I think there should be an ending spot that is worthy of hosting a national championship. So those are the changes I would make. I don't think you need to worry about the teams, but I just think it needs to be a little bit more quicker, and teams should be rewarded a little bit more.
I'll say I'm pretty much on the same page. I said yes, but I like the 12-team idea. I really do. I think it's the perfect number of teams. I don't want to hear these South Carolina fans, these Miami fans, these Alabama fans going, we need 16. Well, if you were good enough, you would have made the 12. So for me, I think 12 is perfect. My only issue is I don't think the top 4 conference teams should get it. I think it should be top 4 teams in general. Go back to the voting. Get the top 4. Because even if you do keep it on a bye, which you should, and you do keep it in neutral sites, a top 4 team will be much better coming off rust than a Mountain West Boise State or a Big 12 Arizona State where their star player is their running back. And they don't really have much else surrounding him. They weren't bad. They just, compared to a Texas or compared to a Penn State, they don't have the star power, the firepower, and it's better for them to keep on rolling, and then you have these bigger schools get break, and then they come in fresh. It's going to make it a lot more entertaining. It's probably going to make it a lot more competitive. But I do like the idea that they get their home field advantage. I did like that idea that you brought up. It's like you get the opportunity. You win your conference, and then your opportunity is to play on a neutral field after having a bye week. It's just tough. And the discrepancy between a pro team having a bye that you would see with like the Chiefs or a college team having a bye is much different because the college are still, I mean, they're basically our age. They're 18, 19, 20-year-olds that are trying to balance not only school but then coming back off of a bye. It's not as easy as a professional that works every single day to be a professional athlete.
I'm genuinely asking all this. I'm not even really trying to prove a point and stuff. But do y'all think that the point of college football in the playoffs should be to identify the best team or create the most fun product possible?
Create the most fun product possible.
product?
It's a business.
All right, what do you think? Just real quick. And I don't want to argue this. I'm just curious what people think and stuff. I like asking this question.
I'm going to say create the best team.
Best team?
Or identify the best team.
I also say the best team.
I'm going best team because if I'm going personally best team, but if I say for money, it'd probably be it's fun.
I wrote it's fun. I think that in terms of identifying the best team, I don't know what the solution is. I think that I feel like this 12-team playoff, I was watching a lot of it, and I was like, I feel like we don't need all these teams. I feel like it's very clear who's going to win beforehand, and then they blew them out and stuff. And I feel like the better team, we already kind of knew going into the season who the better team was 85% of the time throughout this playoff. I feel like even during the 4-team playoff, not every year, but there were a lot of years where it was clearly 2 teams that were the best, and the semifinals were pretty boring, and then the championship just kind of happened. I feel like there's usually 1 or 2, maybe 3 contenders every year, but it's just more fun to have 12, and also sometimes one of those contenders loses one dumb game and is completely out, and that drives me crazy. Like Georgia, the last season, lost 1,000 straight games, lost one, it drove me crazy. So I think that the 12-team playoff invites more teams in and stuff and allows for more opportunities where you can make a mistake at some point in the season and still win a championship. But I think at the end of the day, there aren't enough contenders to justify it fully, but I think it's so much fun. So I like 12-team playoff a lot more. And I don't think they should go to more. Oh my God, that's a lot.
I think I agree. I think 12 is absolutely the perfect number. But how fun would it be? Because the 32nd ranked team right now is Michigan. And you would see a Michigan versus Oregon rematch-ish kind of where...
You want 32?
No, I don't want...
Too much football.
I'm glad someone
anything
said
near
that.
that.
Say we just do 134 and have them all
What if it
fight.
was like two 15-minute halves?
A double elimination season, yeah.
Kennesaw State would be out in 2 weeks.
You would have Michigan, Tulane, Baylor, and Duke all in the playoffs.
Tulane in the
32.
playoffs is really...
Low-key, Duke might make a run. Duke would be fun to watch.
I think
Duke's horrible.
I think for the first test, they got it correct.
Yeah.
They did a very good job at getting correct, and I think they can tweak it along the way to make it better.
And I wouldn't be
I
shocked.
absolutely agree.
I wouldn't be shocked if they dropped that 5th conference champion, just because there's no big Power 5. Yes, they did it to bring in the Big 12.
You have to bring in a big Power 5, or you have to bring in an.
that was the point of the 12 seed was to bring in a group of 5 teams,
Yes,
and Clemson just
you
benefited
have
from
to
it.
bring in-
2017 UCF gets a shot now.
Yeah.
I thought it was 5 because of the
It's so that undefeated. No. It's not for the
It's
Pac.
for the undefeated G5,
Yeah.
yeah, for the Cincinnatis, which I guess they got in, but the Cincinnatis and the UCFs and all that.
Yep.
Yeah, the boys.
Shout out Desmond Ritter, Cincinnati legend.
Raiders?
I'm going to agree that 12 is the perfect number. I really like the way they did it this year, except for the fact that the top 4 teams got a bye. But I want to disagree with a couple things. First, you mentioned lack of star power in college football. I don't think that was the case at all. I think it was just in different areas. We're used to seeing quarterbacks dominate college football. This year we saw running backs and defenders and receivers dominate college football, and quarterbacks almost kind of became an afterthought.
That's the problem is because people only care about quarterbacks.
True. but
That's where
star
star
power. Star power in
Common
different
denominator.
areas. It still created there was an insane amount of social media hype for Ashton Genty to win the Heisman. There was obviously a lot of love for Travis Hunter because he's doing something that nobody has done since his coach. So I feel like it's star power in different areas, so we receive it differently. The second thing is about the better team. Like, the better team's just going to win. Well, if we're going to talk about that, based on the old model, Ohio State wouldn't be in. But this new playoff allows them to prove they were the best team. Let's not forget, preseason, the 3 teams everybody was talking about to make a run, really 4, Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas. Those were the big 4 preseason. Georgia got in. Unfortunate Carson Beck injury, I think that changed a lot for them.
Absolutely.
Texas made it all the way till they played. Ohio State got out. Ohio State was lucky that they got to get hot against Tennessee so they could go and jump out on Oregon. Because I think if they were both rested, I think that's a much closer game. But they were able to jump out on a rusty Oregon and beat them, and Ohio State was your national champion. So I don't have a problem with it at all because Ohio State got in. Everyone preseason was talking about them like they were the best team. Just because you lose to Michigan in a rivalry game, something that you throw the record out the window or the ranking out the window anyway, I feel like when you look at Ohio State, you look at how the playoff went, it's totally fine because the best team in the end won.
I want to bring up a different question then. Do you think having a bye is a disadvantage for the team?
Yes, absolutely.
No.
Really? You don't think so?
Because you get to rest.
I agree.
You get to game plan for longer. It is absolutely an advantage, and it's been proven time and time again in sports that buys are an advantage.
I think the rest,
Otherwise, there wouldn't be buys.
I feel like the rest, there's been a lot of
Buys I feel like buys in the professional world are an advantage.
much better.
Buys in college,
You still got school.
I think
What are you doing?
Because
If you're a
college-
college student with a bye, you're just doing different things than
No,
an NFL player with.
because here's the problem with college buys versus NFL. NFL, they're an athlete 7 days a week. College, they're students. I mean, they had just started their second semester when they had their bye. So I feel like when you're looking at the fact it's a student athlete, the bye is not good for them.
Let's flip this around because I think we're looking at it because all 4 bye teams lost. If we did it by rankings, it would have been Penn State and Texas who had the bye, not Boise State and Arizona State. And Boise State and Arizona State would have gotten blown out to a million pieces if Penn State and Texas had the extra week to game plan.
I think if you made a pros and cons list, I think the rest would be a con to the bye. I think it's too much time. I'd rather roll with momentum.
It's not a rest,
So many college
I think we're
Too many
overthinking this so much. You play if you don't have to play a game and you automatically get to advance. That's an advantage and that makes it better. I'm just saying that there's something to the momentum to it. But obviously, if you play one less game to win a championship, that's
Your odds
better.
are
I'd
mathematically
rather play
better.
3 games than 4 games. I think you're
Yes.
overthinking if you go deeper.
I think
the rest is a conduit. Sorry, you go.
I think all great points. I think again you have to. There's 2 things that I think that will be fixed in this. I think the number is good. I think it's the Goldilocks number. 12 is the magic number going to be. It's going to be here. I don't expect it to go more or less. The thing is, it's probably going to be how long the do-over of each week is. I mean, it was announced that the 2027 college football playoff game, the national championship game, will be on Monday, January 25th. That's a week before the Super Bowl. So there's going to have to be a little bit more of that time to make sure that people are kind of staying into it because these layover periods are kind of crazy. I mean, what was it, 10 days between the semifinal and the final game? Exactly. So with those 2, I thought that it was actually very good. It's just going to really depend on, I think you just have to see more of these playoff scenarios happen because we only have 1 sample size. And we said this about the 14 playoff too. We'll move on though. We'll move on to the NFL. We do have a Super Bowl. That's in 2 weeks from now. Unfortunately, Kane is not with us, so he cannot talk about the Eagles. But we have a rematch of the Super Bowl 2 years past. Chiefs and the Eagles. Chiefs took that one. Eagles cruised to a victory at the Link. I mean, it was, 56-23? That was the game?
55-23.
Like 30.
Okay.
It was ridiculous.
I was a few
You're
off.
1 point off. You're fine.
And then the Chiefs won by a late field goal. Obviously, you're going to have a certain narrative come up when the Chiefs are playing in a big primetime game in the playoffs at home. So let's discuss. Chiefs-Eagles, how do we feel about that rematch? We're not going to do picks right now. That will be next week's deal. We'll do a whole Super Bowl episode next week. But we got a rematch, and it is the 2 best teams in each respective conference. How do we feel about that?
I think I'm going to disagree with most of you guys. I really like it. I think this is the two best teams are currently against each other right now. You have a very good Eagles defense who has proven themselves time and time again. You have a very, very good Chiefs offense with Patrick Mahomes, who we know never bet against Mahomes is the saying, and that's a fact.
It's the two best teams, yes, but it's not the most fun.
Yeah.
It's not the most fun teams. The Bills are the most fun team. Nobody cares. Nobody wants the Chiefs in it. The Chiefs are great for the NFL. Nobody wants the Chiefs in it. The Chiefs aren't fun anymore. They've won too much. You like new storylines. It's the same storylines we've heard for 3 years now, basically 7 years. They made it to the AFC Championship 7 years in a row. It's the same storylines over and over. So it's not the most fun teams. But for the casual NFL fan, you're correct. It's the best Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You either die a hero or live long enough to become a villain. And that's the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And the Eagles, for that matter.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, there was a
They
graph.
started as the villain, and they were just like, now there's a really good villain. Yeah.
I think
No one ever liked the Eagles.
I think anybody who's saying there's like 4 different thoughts I have about this. One, any fan that's saying, "Oh, I'm not watching the Super Bowl," yeah, you're a liar. It's still going to have the same number of views,
gonna break
if not
records
more.
again, yeah.
That it always does.
It'll
It
have
breaks
the best
records every
ratings,
year.
yeah.
It's going to be ridiculous because
That's a
everybody
Chiefs
knows
game,
it's going to be such a good game. Then there's the story of Saquon and his journey to possibly get a ring. He was the only guy I know in recent memory that had a contract dispute and did not hold out to get his way. He played the entire season, and the Giants were doomed to fail. Sorry, I know that's painful for some Giants fans to bring
you're
that
good.
up. But when you're looking at it, Saquon did the right thing. Saquon played, and then Saquon left and went somewhere where he had a better opportunity to succeed. And look at it, in his first year, he's taken him to the Super Bowl. And he is the best player in Philly, not Jalen Hurts. Then obviously there's the three-peat. The three-peat is historic. The three-peat is something not even that nobody's done, that nobody's had a chance to do. It is historic.
Yeah, it's the first time that the teams have made it to the AFC Championship. No
Yes.
team has made it to 3 Super Bowls in a row after winning the first 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
the Bills made it to 4, but they lost
Right.
every one.
Well, Bills lost all 4.
They
So
forfeited just.
Yeah.
Right. So
lost.
this is history. Everybody with Tom Brady hated the fact that he was winning. But when he retired, everybody respected the fact that he made history, that he was the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. We are going to be saying the same thing about Mahomes in 5 to 10 years whenever he ends up retiring right now. Because if they do get this three-peat, people will appreciate it years down the road because this was history we got to witness unfold. And my final thing is the narrative about officiating. That's crap. No, there are some bad officials, yes. You want to hype up the Chiefs-Texans? Okay, that official sucks. We know that. But when you look at the Chiefs-Bills game, when there is a preconceived notion when you're watching the Chiefs that they're going to get bailed by a penalty, you will find any way to excuse something, whether it be the 4th down, which was up for debate. But the line judge that had a clear...
It was
wrong.
It was
It was
probably
close, though. It was close.
It wasn't
It was
conclusive.
probably the wrong call, but that happens all the time. With
Right.
judgment
It was not
calls.
like
There's human error.
There's
There's human error. It's a judgment call. And the guy that had the best view of the ball was the one that made the
was
spot.
not conclusive.
So I have no problem with that. The worthy catch,
It was a catch.
that
Justin Jefferson
By
was
rule,
a catch.
it was a
by rule, it's a catch. And then when you're looking at just the way the game ended, you have Josh Allen. He has the chance to kill the clock, to go down the field, to take that last drive and score and win. And he couldn't do it. And he gave the ball back to Mahomes. And they had a chance to stop him. They had multiple timeouts. They could have forced him to a field goal, kicked the ball. It would have been 35-29, and they could have gone down, scored, and won the game. But they couldn't do it. It's just as simple as Mahomes was better than Allen and has been for the last 4 times they've met. So the officiating narrative, BS. I'm not buying it. I think this is going to be a great game. I think the Chiefs are the Avengers, feel like somebody needs to beat them and you just don't know who it's going to be. And then you got this Eagles defense that, man, they are just really freaking good. And a rushing attack that is almost impossible to stop. I think the Eagles got the tush-push banned on Sunday. We'll see if that ends up happening. But I do want to give a shout out to Clemson alum Will Shipley for scoring his first
good game,
NFL
man.
touchdown.
150
It's
yards
insane.
in the last 3 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Can I expand off the third thing you said? Because this is why I came here. I wasn't planning on being the extra point today. And then I saw these two things in the script and stuff, and I wanted to talk about the Chiefs. I wrote appreciate football. I think I misspelled appreciate, but it's a really big word. So
Got 2 P's.
I wanted, yeah, my bad. That's what Drew said. Yeah, I didn't want to change it because he was all snarky about it, but it's fine.
It's so snarky.
Yeah, but basically, so just like what you said, man, we've never seen a three-peat before. I said this off air a little bit when they were doing the mic check. When I was a little kid, I loved reading about like the Showtime Lakers and the Michael Jordan Bulls, and I loved being like, man, what was it like to live in that era and stuff and experience like that level of greatness? And I think that in sports, I think in individual sports, we want to see that process. Like no one goes to a tennis match and is like, I want to see Serena Williams get upset and lose. Like no one feels that way. No one wants Tiger Woods to have a horrible like Masters and stuff, you know? But I think in football or in professional sports and team sports, you want to see those Cinderella stories. You want to see like the upsets. You want to see the Loyal Chicagos or the Oral Roberts and stuff. And I think that we want to have experienced greatness, but we don't want to go through the process of experiencing it. So I actively root against the Chiefs throughout the playoffs, but at this point, when they're against the Eagles, I just want to see a three-peat. And so I think that's what that's all I have to say. I'm full.
I'd say all I was going to say was that I like it. I think it's probably the best matchup that could have happened outside of the Ravens making it to the Super Bowl, but that was just because we lost. But I do think it's a really good matchup, and I think one of my favorite things, it's not Steve Spagnuolo or Kellen Moore. It's not that matchup that you're looking at. It's not the Saquon Barkley versus the Chiefs defense. It's not Xavier Worthy versus Quinion Mitchell, 2 rookies. My favorite matchup to watch in this game will be Creed Humphrey versus Jalen Carter, because Jalen Carter is an absolute game wrecker and stops momentum at any drive anywhere, and I would absolutely love to watch him go up against one of the best young centers in football right now. It's going to be a fun game, and I think a lot of people are going to hate it just because it's Eagles-Chiefs, but it's going to be a lot more fun than if you were to watch a Bills-Commanders where the defense just isn't there. I think that games with defense and offense are a lot better than just games with just straight offense.
Do we know who's on the call?
Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady.
Oh my God.
Or, I mean, I can deal with Brady as long as it wasn't Collinsworth.
It's the worst. Brady's the worst announcer I've ever.
Brady is
Brady,
not that bad.
Time. Oh my God.
Brady is great, and Brady is perfect to call a Super Bowl.
Yeah, Brady's more fun.
No one has more experience than that man.
It's a really big game, and Patrick Mahomes wins big games, so we're excited to see how he can do against another good team.
Right, but
Maybe he does have
the thing
it.
is, every broadcaster does that.
Yeah, but he's the worst about it. Like my grandma will watch the Super Bowl and she'll like understand what he's saying. I guess Super Bowl is more common denominator. So I see what y'all are saying. I just think he's since
I think he's
Drew
great.
Brees. He's the worst I've seen since Brees.
I don't.
Maybe he does have something up his sleeve with it being a Super Bowl. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. Unfortunately, we are going to have to cut it short. We have run out of time, so that is going to do it for this episode of The Extra Point. Next week, we'll be going over the Super Bowl, previewing that matchup, and we'll have some pick'ems from the panelists. We'll go over some coaching hires, who's the best coaching hire of the cycle, and lastly, we'll go over who we think is going to be the MVP. Everyone's kind of running away with their own race besides the most valuable player. So we'll talk about that next week on The Extra Point. But for the panelists and for myself, I'm Griffin Barfield, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for watching.